Over the past 20 years, Russia and China have enjoyed a strong alliance, and the two countries consider each other close friends. This is further strengthened by the personal rapport between President Putin and President Xi Jinping. Yet Sino-Russian relations have had a checkered past, with periods of cooperation and conflict between these two neighbours over their hundreds of years of shared history. Today we speak to a Russia-China expert, Dr. Una Bērziņa-Čerenkova, the head of the China Studies Centre at Riga University in Latvia and an affiliate of the Lao China Institute, King's College London. Una speaks both Russian and Chinese among several other languages and is the author of the forthcoming book, Perfect Imbalance, looking at the Russia-China relationship. Hi Una, welcome to the China Puzzle.
Hello, it's wonderful to be here.
Una, you've been studying the Russia-China relationship for many years. In light of the current Ukrainian crisis, what kind of pressure is that relationship under?
Well, in this war, I think China is. It's not Russia that's experiencing the pressure, but in this Russia-China relationship, as you asked, it's the Chinese side, because as it has been pointed out also by my colleagues, China is of course looking after its own interests in a world that China sees through realist glasses, right? So China is kind of between a rock and a hard place here. On one hand, it doesn't want to jeopardize the link with Russia. This link, in fact, serves China, as I argue also in my research, it serves as a story. There's some power in the story saying that there's this country that supports us and that we have a special relationship with. So that's one thing. But on the other hand, China also is thinking about not being dragged down with Russia, not being dragged into this situation, not being a pawn in a sense, and maybe, just maybe, sees this as an opportunity as well to restart the conversation, for example, with the United States. Some early bird signs have already been there. For example, when Wang Yi made a statement saying that he's actually inviting the United States to consider joining Belt and Road and trying to find the common points with G7, with Build Back Better World connectivity initiative, and trying to link it with Belt and Road, which of course is again a story and narrative. But if we read into this a little bit, and I'm allowed to do that as a discourse analyst, that's what I do, we see that it is in fact a shift, trying to see how we can link with the US. And I want also to point out that on a trade level, in fact, China realizes that its relationship with Russia is quite minuscule comparing to, for example, its relationship with the EU. So this is kind of a complicated time for China. And that is why we don't see a direct and spelled out strategy here. We see these kinds of packets, these bits and pieces of positions, which can be characterized with this word that you are in the middle, and you don't want to go to stray too far away from the middle. So there's a lot of words that don't really mean that can be twisted according to the context, which can mean one thing or another. Words like sovereignty, words like special historic circumstances. So China acknowledges that Ukraine has special historical circumstances. At the same time, country sovereignty should be upheld. At the same time, China acknowledges Russian, what Russia calls these issues with the current European security architecture, namely with NATO. So that's and this is just me. I can start to tell you about what is this pressure that China and Russia relationship is facing now from the Chinese side, I argue mostly.
Yeah, there's certainly been mixed messages from China's side, which is indicative of that kind of complexity and how they're approaching this situation. But you talked about sovereignty there, and it's a concept that President Xi is constantly affirming on the international stage. He met with the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi recently met with the Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba, and out of that meeting, Wang Yi said that China looks forward to playing a role in realizing a ceasefire in Ukraine. So that's reasonably strong language in amongst a lot of sort of mixed messages, as we were talking about. But it's still quite unclear what kind of role China might play when we're talking about the ongoing conflict in Ukraine with Russia.
Yes, exactly, Hannah. I think what you're saying, this word unclear and this mixed messaging is exactly it. In fact, I'm trying to make sense of this, and I also read what my colleague Justina Zudlik posted and tweeted on this, and her opinion is that this is in fact a selective readout, and we're basing our assessment on the Chinese readout, and these diplomatic readouts are an art of their own. So in fact, again, I would say, yes, this is new in a way, but at the same time, this still falls into this previously mentioned category of, staying in the middle, not roaming too far away from the middle to be able to quickly jump back when the music stops. So but you also wanted, in your question, I heard that there was this question of more future oriented, right? What does it really mean, and what China could do? In fact, well, I think, in fact, this also falls into the basket of opportunities that China right now sees, and it is definitely thinking about how to raise its standing, because finally it has a bargaining chip. A strong bargaining chip when it comes to his conversation, for example, with the US. So China could possibly decide to host or invite parties to some sort of a conversation, a process. Of course, China is reiterating its trust in the Minsk, in the Minsk agreement, and saying that a renewal and that this is the path to go. But at the same time, it can also say, okay, let's host talks. So I'm sure this it's been also discussed in publications. This option is on the table. Whether it's ideal for Ukraine is hard to say, but at the same time, we have to acknowledge that probably out of all the powers in the world, China is the only one that Russia would pay some mind to at this point.